Hello and welcome back to another epic adventure at Weaver Stonehouse Farms, and today, once again, we're working on the MW1500 round baler, which is a Krone 181. Something I've needed to do for a while. Now this top is up. When it's up, keep in mind, safety lock. So you got to put it back to go ahead and keep the pressure so it doesn't come out and crush you. See this? 26 teeth. See this? 26 very worn teeth. Very worn. There's no chain because the chain keeps coming off of the sprocket because there's not that much sprocket there. I got a new sprocket last year. It was about 250 bucks. Now we got to go ahead and rip this whole thing apart. I'm not exactly sure how to do it. But we're going to get it done. So there's a part up underneath here. There's a bolt right there. I'm going to guess that's a larger shaft that slides through this thing. These come apart. Now this whole bottom assembly, you see how that's kind of an angle up and over there? That whole bottom assembly comes out. Pull these bolts out, get this assembly off, and maybe just slide this apart here. You're down to dropping, which I may still be down to, dropping the whole front end off, and then that whole back assembly off.
And all your money.
And all your money. Yeah, so this whole thing separates right here across where these rollers are. So this is one half, this bottom with the rollers is another half. Somebody must have been into these bearings before I got in here. Okay. Wheel studs are screwed up getting this off, so I'm gonna have to get new wheel studs. That one's stripped, that one's snapped. Yeah, we're just gonna have to get new. That bolt was a bare nut. It's using 1 1/8 on it to get it off. That's close. Spin those loose. And then backing it on that side. Here's the wheel assembly off. And I have to unbolt this whole entire top assembly. Which, the hardest part about this, there's nowhere to support this because the bottom rollers are what hold it up. Okay, so it's really not safe doing this. I am very thankful I have it tied to my overly massive 706 with humongous tires on it. And that kept it from tipping back too far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld on a jack stand collar. That way, because I did put a jack under it and it kind of catch it, but not a lot. So this will allow me to put that jack stand on there to hold it up straight, because it's good for 5,000 pounds, holds trailers. Then I can rip this whole thing apart. So I'm gonna get this one. Okay, so we got the mobile welder hooked up again. So we got the good old generator tied to the good old Lincoln stick, and we're gonna be burning. I'm probably gonna set this thing up at 105 amps, and we're gonna be burning 7018s. And I love my 1/8 inch rods. And they want 90 to 135. I actually may go higher. I may go 120 for the first pass. Doing all right. So I did all right burning it. Okay, there it is. A couple of blocks. It's in. It's right on the tipping point. I mean, obviously with all the weight facing towards the back, it's gonna want to still tip, but it's pretty good there. I'm happy with it. I mean, it's up on the pin here, but we're pretty solid in on that tongue. We got a whole lot of tractor to hold it too. So I'm moving the chain, so we got to find the master link. That's the master link. Okay. Yeah, you can see that. So you got to slide that clip out, then push the pin out, down and off, and then we can push the pins. We got to push these pins straight through then. There it is. Sweet. Okay. So there it is. I always like to try and put it back together so I don't lose it. Start working on those bolts up here next. Because I gotta get, well, I probably gotta pull this sprocket out too. Maybe. We'll see. Let's see what I can take apart. Okay, so I got blocks underneath. That's where it actually goes this way to turn the hay in. And then I took the sprocket off. That took a little bit of work. To get that off, I had to grind the end of it. Now, interesting to note, okay, is inside of this. That's an Allen key. So this bolt on the outside doesn't go the whole way through. It's just a backer bolt to keep the Allen key from backing out, which the Allen key really wasn't in anyways. Washer off here so I can slide. This whole thing floats. So I'm gonna slide this bracket off and out of the way, take this off. It's gonna wanna drop down, so I've got these blocks under it here. So, okay, since I got these blocks under here, I took my pry bar, put it underneath, and I pried that up just a little bit. Take some tension off, and I popped the hair clip out, and that washer, don't lose it, it's a custom washer. You can make one, but yeah, you don't want to. I might hit my thing here, I don't know, we'll see. Let's see. I have to use my pry bar on that. Or am I? Yeah, right on the edge of it. Let me hit that with a grinder a little bit. Bolts in it right here, holding that bracket on. That slid off, okay. There's a collar on here. There's two Allen keys that are buried down in, so then I can slide this collar off. Because that is gonna have to, the whole thing's gonna have to slide forward to come off. That shaft, yeah. Okay, so the lock ring removal did not go that well. Yeah, it's still a little hot. I had to drill it out and then beat it. It didn't want to come around. I got one of them out, but the other one, it was like somebody screwed it up prior to me because I couldn't get the right size Allen key in it, metric or standard, and it didn't fit. So came down to drilling it out, and I thought I could drill it and then pop it loose, and it didn't want to, so then I just drilled it and hit that with a chisel, and then it came off of here. Okay, so we got the locking collar off. We got the bolts out. Surprisingly enough, 14 millimeter actually fit those bolt heads a little bit better. There's a nut on the back, so you got to go in on the back side of this. It's back in there where those nuts are. And then these, torch that one, torch that one. I had to beat on it with chisel a little bit, got it out, and I got it to pop and pry apart. So hopefully we can now pull the whole assembly out and I can get to the sprocket. Joy. This piece has got to go back in so now. This piece actually, this is me reassembling it, but it's important to note where this location is now, because if you don't take this crazy looking bracket off the backside, you're not going to get it off the sprockets, and you'll actually break your sprockets. What it does, and its intended purpose, is to actually keep it, the whole bottom assembly from sliding, allowing the drums to slide out or that whole assembly to slide apart. It's over-engineered beyond all belief. So yeah, just make sure you unbolt those two little bolts. You can see that one hole dead in front of you, and get that out of there. And obviously it's your choice if you want to put it back in when you reassemble it. Got it separated. Here's the bolts I torched off that were up in the top corners, right there. So got it dropped down. Now I got to figure out how to go ahead and get it off. Yeah. Started beating on the back corners here. This didn't want to pop out. This, I don't see any locking rings back in here. I don't know what's holding it on. I am really glad I thought to weld that in there to hold this and support it, because all of that stuff is hanging off of it, down off. I mean, this is split. Not too many people are going to split these balers in half to fix them. That's essentially what. Okay, after countless time beating and heating, this bearing. Now, I talked to an old guy. I think they're down in Kentucky. I'll put a link to their shop. Yeah, you can see it's cracked now from me heating and beating on it. And I had to use my ever popular multi-purpose pry bars. I was using my chisel back in here and chiseled it out enough that I could get it moved off the shaft. The shaft is fairly clean. And then got this pushed out. So I'm gonna have to get a new bearing in here. And then the other fun part is this in here. So that actually did move. I'm gonna hit that a little more. This crazy bracket's holding it on. Take it off. It's moving. Okay, that's good, because that's what I need to take. I need to take this whole assembly off so I can get to that sprocket and cut it and weld it on. Okay, so here's something else I did. There's a hole on the diagram. Mine didn't have a hole like the diagram shows. So I drilled one. And that got me into that shaft. I got BB blaster sprayed in there. And then remember, you gotta have that set screw out. So I sprayed a full PB blaster up in there too. Okay, 3-jaw puller is working. I had to shim it across to kind of hold it so it doesn't roll around on me, but it's slowly coming now. Yay! Okay, it's off. It says link belt. Oh, there's a number. So link belt 225. That helps you. But it came off. Heating and beating and pulling and prying. Holy cow, ridiculous. Okay, why did I have to do that? So I can continue beating on this to pry this out. Hey. Okay, so I did a little bit of grinding. I think somebody replaced this one before because it was really crappy welds. So I ground around on this a little bit for what I could. Got the 3-jaw puller on it. I know that's pretty decent size one. And then on the back, it's starting to peel off. So I'm gonna get a chisel. I'm gonna beat on that just a little bit. Hey, it's off. So after years of fighting this thing because not having a roller spin and having to unplug the bale more times than I want to talk about, we got it off. So the puller helped get it, grinding it helped get it, and then chisel lightly around. Now there's not a lot of metal, so I'll have to build this up just a little bit. I can do that. I can weld in and patch this. That's why I love anything that's steel. I can fix it. Okay, so here is the new sprocket. It's 26 tooth sprocket. There's the old one over top of it. You can see that our teeth line up. Everything's correct. You're good. There's the numbers if you need them. All right, so what do we have to do?
Beat it.
Well, okay. I had to grind it too. I used that grinder on it for a while. That didn't do it. It wasn't enough. I heated it. Heated the ring up for a while. That wasn't enough. And then I took the grinder and I worked the grinder around the inside of it. A little bit at a time. I was doing like 1 or 2 passes. Stop. Try and see if I can get it to fit. So it's pretty tough to get on. I'm working the last of it. It's tight.
Bottom edge needs work more.
I'm just making sure I'm mostly even. It's pretty good on that one. I'm all right with it. And then we'll put a little bit of weld in there yet. We're getting there. Okay, it's welded on. I ground the excess off. I didn't do a full weld the whole way around because I didn't want to heat my bearing up. It's a little tough, but not too bad. I did my 7.018 rods, 3/30 seconds, which they're just fine. And then I had the old Lincoln welder set at 90. 70 was too light. I didn't want to really take. And then 105 was way too much. It was way too hot. 90 was even a hair hot for this. So, but 90 hit it just about right. So there it is, it's welded on. There's no distortion on it. And it's lined up. Okay, so this is the bearing that would go on your rollers. It goes on this front one on the outside. And it is an SA208-24 SST. Now, I actually got this from my local New Holland dealer because their case, New Holland, wasn't that bad. It was like around about 45 bucks. There's your part number from them. I'm absolutely freaking thrilled. And yeah, it came with a new lock collar. So these are quite unique in the way these go in. And he called it 80 millimeters, what he said on the outside, my guy that measured it. It's my buddy Nathan at the parts store. So I put just a little bit of grease on the inside, and then what I did, I took this bit and I ground the inside just a little bit because it's round to help make it easier to spin. And the way you got to put these in, they're very unique. They're very German because you got to put it in here this way and then flip it. But you've got to get it started just enough past these ears here so it'll be over so it doesn't get caught. So it's got to be leaning over here on this side of it right here. So it's got to be on this side and it's got to be on this side when you tilt it and when you start tapping. Now you can see I have a large piece of brass that I ended up tapping it over with so I wouldn't hurt it. And it's in. I put a little bit of wheel bearing grease on the inside to help it spin. Now we'll clean that shaft up, put it back together. Okay, so we ran into a problem on reassembly. This bolts into those two holes back here. It goes on the back side and it kind of is like a chain. It's not really guide, but it's something for the chain. So I think it came off before based on how that's kind of angled and beat because the sprocket really wasn't holding anything. And that's what was holding it to get the assembly off. So if you're trying to get it apart, pay attention to that. That's why I think I was beating and pulling so hard on this to get it out. So, lovely. Hope I didn't break any teeth on that one. There's that idler sprocket, and then you can see the holes from the backside, and it goes down in there. Alright, so the bolts on the front, I think they're 1/2 inch, and then the bolts in the back, they're 7/16 if I remember right. So I use those because they're a little bit smaller and they fit down in there and I can get a socket on them. So much better. Number 50 roller chain on here. A little trick to get it wrapped up through a little bit. Obviously it's easier with this piece out. I tie baling twine on it, that way I can slide it up over here and then I can work it with my fingers. So I got it marked where I want it. Thankfully it's chain lined up, it's going to be center to center. So then I always mark the one I want to save and I want the middle of that. So then I'm going to grind that off so I can pop it out. Got my chain popper thing. One of those. You do enough chain work, you buy the tools. And then this is also a chain holder. It's valuable. It is crazy valuable to have this. So these are essential tools when working with chain. Got to have it. It's a pin driver is what it actually does. It drives the pin out that I just ground off. So what I do is I put it on here, center it up. That's a little bit of a handle. And then I need to get it. And that's why I like to leave a little bit of an outline so I can see it. Grind to one side off. Typically you can push it out because that's loose and it pushed. Crack this one too. Poof. A link with it. I have extra ones I always buy. There's offset links, and then these are just the straight master link. Actually don't need the puller on this one. If you needed to use this tool, literally it goes in here in between the links like this, and then you draw it in. All I do is put this on right there, and then I put my clip in. Start on the back, front, and then what works best for this, needle nose. I've tried screwdrivers too many times and poked and punched my fingers. It's right here, catch the edge of that, and in she goes. Woohoo! Getting closer to not having to fight bales getting stuck. Okay. Yeah, but we lost chain in the field, remember, when it first blew off. It was baling great when we first bought this thing. It was like, oh, it's amazing, this is great. And then poof. Okay, so we tighten the chain up. I forgot to do that. This right here, come on in, that sprocket on the back side, there's an adjustment on that sprocket. You can see now this chain is nice and tight because we push down and that sprocket pushes down on the chain in the middle because it wraps around and comes down underneath. So that's the routing for the chain, in case you're wondering. Around and down under this sprocket, so it's best obviously to put this here. Okay, now this is a 9/16, goes up and down. There's a trick to getting this, you got to get it shimmed right, and it's hard. Had to use really long needle nose here. That chain is now straight. The sprocket in the middle on it is straight, which is what you want. So we had to work on the shims. It took a bolt. So I had to stick a nut in there and 2 washers on this side to get it shimmed out, to get it in line properly, but it is now in. Sweetness. So this piece, I notched it right here where one of those bolt heads is going to go through. Just for future use. Whoops. If I ever need to take this off again, I'm going to grind that so I can pop that out. Doesn't take a whole lot just to give you that little bit of clearance room, and I catch this on the back side. And see, that's where those will be spun or turned and perfectly then. The bolts are on, got some new bolts. Blue Loctite is what I put on these new studs. So the new studs that I put in that worked, I don't know if this is the same from Napa or not. It might have been. I don't know if it is. So yeah, new wheel studs. All the bolts are in up top. I got my wires back in place, tucked back behind. I cleaned the crap out that was in there, blew it out, poked it out. Chain back on. Now this part right here, to tighten this up is a little difficult. I had to tap that out to 1/2 inch. That's at 7/16, and this 3/8 still kind of caught originally, so I just kind of left it. So this has just a little bit of stretch to it, not much. So you got to loosen these up. Your chain tightener is down here, so this drives on this to push it out. What I did to cheat, initially to pull it together, I just went ahead and put a hook in here. I ran a hook up on the back of this with a ratchet strap, and I just ratcheted it together so I could pull the chain back to where I wanted it. And then I went ahead and I used this, and I put my pry bar down in behind here. So, and I pushed out. So that'd be right down in there, and I gave it a shove forward. So that allowed me to get that right tension on that chain, set that set screw. I had to heat this and move it out of the way because I couldn't get my drill into here. So I actually heated this, bent it completely out, and then I bent it completely back in. A guard should go on here. I don't have it. Maybe I could make one if it's a problem. It hasn't been yet. And then I had to put a little bit of a weld up in here on this. So yeah, we're together, and I greased this all together. But this was all new last year with new grease, so we're good. We can put her back together now. Sweet. Let me get some part numbers. Okay, so this is the kind of rounded bearing. I think he said it was 80 millimeter. My buddy at Forester Farm Equipment, Nathan. So yeah, that bearing fit. It's back in there. There's a lock collar. It was kind of weird. It only had one of the holes for lock collar drilled. So I drilled and tapped the other one, out, and I put another lock on it. But yeah, so the bearing's in there, it's all in. So, well, if you made it this far in the video, we greatly appreciate it. Stick with it. You too can get this fixed. It just takes a lot of time and effort to do it, and put new bolts and parts and pieces in as you go. So if this helped you, help us. Subscribe. We're very close to hitting 1,000 subscribers, and you could get us over that hump so we can finally get paid for giving you the videos to help you get your equipment fixed. So, hey, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on the farm.